Hello and welcome back to Wyrd Wessex. I'm Andy.
And I'm Craig.
Craig, today on the show we're joined by a man who has lived several lives in just one lifetime and allegedly talked to a few more on the other side.
Yeah, he really has. Most people find their calling in a library or a classroom, but our guest today found his under the spotlight of a drag stage, spending 6 years touring as the one and only Cher.
Yeah, but since hanging up the Sequins and surviving a legendary booing in Worthing, he's traded the Dark Lady for the other side. He's now one of the UK's most prominent spiritual mediums, a male witch and a Reiki healer based right here in the heart of Wiltshire.
He's been a full-time voice for the spirits for over 15 years, filling halls from Westbury to Wookey Hole with what he calls love, light and laughter. Okay, so Mitch, you describe yourself as a male witch, psychic medium, and Reiki healer.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into all that, you spent 6 years as a Cher drag act.
I did.
So yeah, I mean, how much of being a successful medium is about the same kind of stagecraft, managing the room, timing, and holding an audience's attention?
Yeah, it's kind of similar, to be honest, in a way. That's quite an interesting question. But obviously, with the Cher stuff, it's a script. You know what you're doing, lots of costume changes and everything else. Things tucked here, there, and everywhere. Whereas when I do my mediumship, you know, yes, you're still holding the room, you're still holding that stage, but it's kind of different because you're being governed by spirit. So it's a different energy. It's hard to sort of. It's similar, but not. But there's elements of sort of the Cher show in my mediumship show. So the introduction that I do is actually a Cher song as I kind of come on stage. So you'll see that when you come to my show, actually.
Okay.
Which will be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's hard to sort of say because there are elements I think that from my Cher days have helped me hold a stage easier. Because when you're dressed up in full drag, you know, it doesn't really matter what comes out, does it, when you're doing your mediumship? Doesn't matter what people think as such, if you can do drag and not worry about it.
So you don't do the medium thing in Cher drag?
No, I haven't had the combo. I think I'm too fat now to do Cher as well, so I've just got it tattooed on my arms instead.
Nice.
Yeah, we read that you were, from your own account, booed off stage in Worthing as Cher.
Yeah, this is where I went wrong. I had 6 great years, like amazing places and did some amazing stuff. And then Worthing, I'm never going to go back to because that's kind of where it all changed. So basically what happened, I did this kind of a little bit of like a back sort of CD club. And I don't know if it was because they didn't want to pay me or what it was, but I was sort of halfway through the show. And literally the person that kind of run the place, he was sort of a big huge drag queen, and he just like turned on me and he came up onto the stage. He was like, "Stop, I don't want you to do any more." And all of a sudden, like the whole audience twisted and turned and started booing me. So I was like, "Oh shit, we need to get out of here quick." So it went from being like a really lovely show, you know, shoop song and all this, to suddenly like, shit, pack your stuff, we've got to get out of here fast. And there's about like 200 people in the room, so it wasn't small, you know. And yeah, that was my sort of bit of mental breakdown, I think, really, from that point.
I guess that could scare you away from doing any stage work.
It did, because I'd been so sort of like kind of, you know, little gay clubs here and there and other places. It wasn't like sort of huge stuff, but it was nice to sort of do my thing. I always feel I was a bit ahead of like RuPaul's Drag Race, because I think if that had been there then, because this was a long time ago now, you know, I was quite young when this all happened, but I think if I was in that time period now, I could get away with it still. So I think I was ahead of my time maybe there. And also I can't sing for shit. And I think that's the problem, you know. I blagged it for a lot of the years. But no.
Is it about the singing though? Do you know
that's
what I mean?
the thing. I think when you're a drag queen, you can get away with so much stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So you can mask quite a lot of humour with things. But no, it was just so weird, and it just came to an abrupt end. And from that point, really, that's when my spiritual stuff kicked in. So I'd always been aware of spirit in the background, but I hadn't really wanted to pursue them in any way. And I was like, no, I'm going to focus on doing my Cher thing. And like now when I go on stage, I think, oh, do you know, even if I can only give 1 or 2 messages, it's not going to be as bad as when I was booed off stage in Worthing. And kind of that thought keeps me going, actually.
Yeah, I guess you hit bottom at that stage.
Exactly.
So it can only be better.
It can only be better.
Yeah.
And touch wood, I've never had a bad mediumship show in the whole time I've been doing it. So fingers crossed, it's all cool.
I mean, I was going to ask you actually. It was one of the things we thought of on the way here that's not on our list. So it kind of ties in though, is the idea of what happens if nothing comes through at a show.
Yeah, because it is scary because you're going in kind of, completely blind essentially.
You're relying on spirit.
I'm relying on spirit 100% to not make me look like a twat on stage, But yeah, they've never let me down. Sometimes messages take a while to sort of go to the right place, and I'm quite dedicated to get the mediumship as sort of accurate as possible and as, right as possible.
Yeah.
So, which I think might be one of your questions about kind of cold calling and everything else. And when you see these mediums out there when they say, is there a Simon in the room? Well, everyone knows a fucking Simon, don't they? And that to me is not mediumship. Or if you get somebody saying, you have a mum in spirit, it's being done in a way where they're asking for a yes or no answer.
Yeah.
So how I tend to work is I'm coming to you, I've got XYZ, boom, 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 and I'm sort of telling them in a factual way of this is what's happening. And I think that's what the difference is between mediumship and like the cold reading stuff.
So do you believe in life after love?
Do I believe? Yes. In a nutshell.
Well done for the straight delivery of that.
I have to. Hey, I've got that tattooed on me, so I'm gonna have to, don't I?
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you've kind of said this already. So the question we were going to ask you was about whether that moment after the booing stage was the moment like the spirits took over, or whether they were already kind of there.
Well, not really. What happened after then? So I kind of went into quite a big, sort of a bit of a depression, really, and just a bit of a kind of a mental time of just being a bit tortured by it all, because I was so headstrong and that's what I wanted to do as a career.
Yeah.
But my day job was working in like a bed shop. So, sales and all of that lot. And it was in there that really where it all started to kind of kick off. So I had a medium come in off the street randomly. And what's really weird with this is like, and I always say this to people. So the day she came in, I wasn't even meant to be working the shift. So they called me up, someone had gone sick, can you come in on a Wednesday? And I was like, oh God, Wednesday is the worst day, nothing ever happens. I was like, okay, I'll come in. So me on my own, pottering around, did the day, and then about 3:30, 4 o'clock, quite late in the day, this woman came in with her husband, looking at the bed, so you think, okay, let's try and sell her something and all the rest of it. And she was like, I need to stop you just there. She's like, before we go any further, you're a medium, but you're not working spiritually. And I was like, okay. And then she's like, you need to invest in this because you're actually like a stage medium and you should be doing theatres and all this stuff. And I was like, I don't think so. And what kind of sealed the deal was like, oh, she's like, there's a lady here, but it's not for you, it's for your partner. And it was his mum, and she'd only just passed over to the spirit world. So I was like, how the fuck do you know this when I'm not even meant to be working shift? So you couldn't have researched it or anything like that, really. And then she said, I think this must have happened just before the Cher stuff, actually. It was like along the same timeline. And she said, you're going to have some time on stage dressing up, but then your real work's going to start and it's going to come to an abrupt end, which it did, which was Worthing. So I was like, oh, damn, okay. So it's kind of strange because I sort of feel a bit like the spirit world has kind of chosen me in a way. And there you go. First time that's happened. I did warn you it would do it. Yeah, so it's really weird because from that point then I sort of started to embrace the ability a bit more. I've always had sort of bits and pieces there, but not enough to feel secure enough in it. And so I sort of joined a circle, fine-tuned a few things, and then here we are doing stage theatre stuff now, which is a bit crazy.
So was there any sort of definitive point, sort of how does it work? Was there any definitive point when you realised, because you mentioned them being in the background, like before that this lady came in, for example, when you thought, yeah, I'm hearing things or I'm being sent messages? Was there any certain point in your life before then that you felt that?
Well, when I was in the bed shop, I think the pinnacle point really for me, one of them, was what was happening. The more I was sort of denying working with them, the stronger it was becoming. So I always remember there was this kind of quite young couple came in one day into the bed shop. It all happens in the bloody bed shop. And I started seeing their parents just physically next to them in spirit. And I was like, okay. And I thought, do I say anything? Because part of me was like, well, that's really like not code of conduct to sort of just push yourself onto someone. But the other side of me was like, I might never see these people again. So I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to just say. So I told them what I do. I said, can I just give you these messages? And they were like, oh my God, it will make sense. And then that was happening all the time. Every kind of customer that was coming in, I was starting to see their loved ones. And I was like, oh, this is pissing me off now.
Were people coming to the shop for that?
I think they were starting, word was spreading. I think
Yeah.
word was spreading. And I was
Free
like,
readings in the bed shop.
yeah, and I was like, oh, this is just stupid now. And then another medium came in and she's like, you need to be doing tarot as well. So then I thought, fuck it, I'll learn the tarot. And that's kind of really where I suppose it all really opened up a little bit, you know? So I did the tarot and I thought, I'm not going to do it for people. It was purely for my mental health. Because I thought, okay, if I can see what's going on, get some direction from the cards, happy days. And then I sort of started doing little free readings here and there, and that just snowballed. And that kind of opened it all up. But also with your original question about was there a pinnacle moment, when I was growing up, I don't know if you've ever had this with previous episodes. So like, have you ever kind of talked about the elemental side of stuff at all, out of interest?
Really,
Not massively, no. I mean, it's sort of vaguely come up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Because when I was I must have been about 7 or 8, literally it was Christmas time. So I opened the door. We were going to go and pick my nan up because she was coming up for Christmas. And there was this little dwarf just in the doorway. And I was like, what the fuck? And I thought it was a prank. I thought someone was dressed up and they'd like set something up. And then I was like, what's this all about? So I followed him outside, and we had these like big trees at the side of our house. And you could sort of go into one of the trees, and once you're in there, there's no way out. You know, you've got to come out the way you go in. So I followed him in. Literally, he just disappeared, and that has fucked me up to this day. I'm like, what was that?
That's like a fae thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was so.
You didn't eat or drink anything down there, right?
No, literally, it was
Wouldn't
so
come up.
weird. And I sort of said to my dad about it, and he's like, and my dad's very like skeptical, very kind of atheist to any of this stuff. And he was like, you know, what are you on about? And he's like, come on, get in the car, we're going to be late. But my mum was like, I don't know why, but I believe you. She's like, I know you wouldn't make it up, because she could see I was quite not freaked out. I was more pissed off, I think, because I was like, where's this man gone? It was so weird. But you know, when you have those moments where it's so ingrained in your mind now, I can see it crystal clear in my mind.
I mean, it's an interesting idea, I guess. So your dad being skeptical, your mum believed you.
Mm.
Was there ever a point, either for yourself or them, where you just thought you were losing the plot, essentially?
I have had times when I think I've been going a bit crazy with it all, and everything.
Like,
And
you know, before you found out about...
I mean, growing up was weird for me anyway, because I was, you know, I was exploring my sexuality, trying to understand that journey. I was spiritual, and, you know, spirit were always there in different forms, different ways. And there's another time I remember I was in a maths class, and there was this guy sitting in the chair, and nobody could see him, and I just assumed he was like an extra teacher. And I said to the kid next to me, who's this guy? He's not been introduced. And they're like, there's no one there. Who are you seeing? So I've had things like that, and then it's like, oh, okay, I'm starting to be aware that there's stuff going on with me that other people are not seeing. So kind of going through school, I kind of went into sort of shut down. I went into mute for a lot of the time, as I thought it's just easier to not to talk, which is weird.
It's interesting. A lot of that stuff, and especially those sort of encounters, do tend to happen in those formative years when you're a teenager as well. Like, not just when you're a little kid, you can sort of put it down to imagination or overact to imagination.
Yeah.
But like when you're a teenager, your imagination doesn't really work that way. You know, you're not making up invisible friends and things like that, really. And
Exactly. And, you know, I wasn't doing like drugs or anything, or wasn't sort of smoking weed, or wasn't doing any sort of hardcore drinking. So there's no reason to be influenced by anything as such.
So, this is a slightly longly worded question.
Okay.
So, does the way mediums are portrayed on TV affect people's belief in what you do? Like, we often hear the headline grabbing frauds like John Edwards or Derek Akura, right? I think they're names most people probably watching have heard of, particularly for being found out as frauds. So when those fakes are exposed, like, does it make your job harder in any way? Like, are people that are coming to see you, I guess, can they tell the difference between these fraud TV showmanship versus what you're doing in a...
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I mean, it does make it tricky, but I think there is so much skepticism anyway on a good day, you know? I mean, if you go on Facebook and you sort of promote your poster around, say, this event's coming up, you get 1 or 2 lovely comments, and there's a beret of abuse, basically, and you're like, do you know, let it go, just move it to one side. And I just say to people, with my shows, come with an open mind, come with an open heart, and just see what happens, because I cannot guarantee what's going to take place. But if you're open to receive, you may get a reconnection with a loved one. So I think you have to almost move the belief system side of stuff out the way, almost, to a degree. So in terms of like, do I get worried about it or whatever? Not really, because I think every day there's skepticism with the work that I do, and you just have to brush it off, really. Because I think if I worried about it every day, I wouldn't get out of bed of a morning.
Yeah.
But the flip side of it, I think, people come in here for private readings that, I'm very successful with my shows. They wouldn't keep coming back if there wasn't something to it.
It's interesting because I know a lot of people that do subscribe quite a lot to readings and things like that, and mediums, and that are still very skeptical of people like the guys we mentioned, like Derek Hoare and John Edwards and people like that who have been, and even before they were sort of found out, they were kind of skeptical of that. They were like, no, when it's like a big TV sort of thing, quite a lot of the time that is, they say, you can tell the real from the fake in there.
I think the thing as well with that is, like, I think maybe those people started off being genuine to a point, and then like the fame and everything else has kind of got to them a little bit, and they've lost the moral compass, I call it, really. And like you say, things get embedded, they get sort of edited and tweaked and changed, and it's sad, isn't it, when that happens?
It's pressure to perform, isn't there, I guess?
And some of the stuff that would come out that might be truthful, that they might actually be getting through, aren't quite as entertaining as what TV or big shows that are filmed and put out on TV demand. So it's like, well, I've got to find some really accurate stuff or some really wild stuff, so I'm going to make that up and research it before,
It is a shame, because I just think, giving a false reading is so detrimental and just does so much damage, There's no point giving a false reading. But on my shows, I've had it before where people have maybe got a loved one coming in and they verified that information is correct, but they may want to hear from their mum or someone else, and they may not be ready to come forward for whatever reason. And it's like, well, I'm not getting that. So I will say if I'm not getting something, but this person is here for you for whatever reason.
So quite often you hear of mediums of sort of with spirit guides sort of helping guide them. First of all, have you got one? And no offense to the people that say they've got one, but why are they so often sort of Ethiopian or like Native American or Inuit or something like that? Why is it never like a IT specialist from Swindon or something? It's
well, spirit, that made me laugh, that question. Okay, so there's two parts to that one I'll tell you about. So the spirit guides, definitely, we all have one or various guides. One usually is from birth to death with us. The reason I was laughing is because I had a spirit guide portrait sort of drawn for me quite a while ago now, and this lady had been linking in with me naturally anyway. Then I had her sort of drawn, and she's been kicking my ass ever since, because she's been the one that wants me to be doing all the stage stuff, and she swears like a trooper. She's called Mary. She is from the Titanic, but she's not like a famous sort of figure. She's just a random one that was on the boat. But she's hilarious. She swears a lot, and she's a mix of kind of like Lily Savage mixed with Joan Rivers. That's how I would describe her.
Amazing.
Yeah, she is quite fun. She gets me in a lot of trouble. But she was the one that said, if you're waiting for someone to approach you to do your theatre work, this was in like a meditation, she's like, you'll be waiting forever. She's like, just fucking get on and do it. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm going to kind of contact a few theatres and just see if I can actually get in. And that's kind of how all that opened up. So she's really pushed me quite hard. But yeah, a lot of the time people do have spirit guides of authority, or like you say, power or status. And I think it's just a way that they can identify. I think the energy comes in that way, which makes it safer for them in a way.
Yeah.
And because you have to almost feel like when the spirit guide comes in, they don't necessarily have those features. They don't necessarily look like that. It's just being done in a way that is safe for that person to recognize. That person could come, that the energy of that spirit guide could show as a little aunt, and that could be the same. The energy is the same.
So it's what we can perceive and sort of what would be safe and comforting for us to perceive them as, rather than necessarily what they are.
And a lot of people like the idea of this kind of big chief Indian and everything, and it sort of rubs into their ego a little bit. And there has to be some ego to do mediumship, because otherwise we
any stage work.
Exactly, and some ego is okay. It's when it gets blown out of proportion, like with some of the characters you were talking about.
Yeah, because yeah, I did wonder at one point if it was that, sort of along those lines. It's sort of like it's less that that's what they are, just more as like that's the form they're using. Or alternatively, if they were the spirits of those people, whether it is that people that were kind of guides and shepherds of people in life carry on in, sort of what's beyond.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and this is only my take on it, I feel spirit guides are a blend and a mixture of many spirits within that one frequency. I sort of feel spirit to be like a frequency because it's a higher sort of vibration to that of this world, and when we're sort of linking to do mediumship, our frequency goes up, theirs goes down, and there's a middle bridge, if you like, which is what mediumship is. It's finding that bridge between the two where we can sort of channel and receive the energy.
So is the signal always on? Like when you're doing your weekly shop, are you constantly telling your guides to shut up?
No, like it used to be, but I've like fine-tuned that. So I've now got like an on and off switch. So like it's on when we're going to work, it's off when we're not.
So is this like a weird lottery that you won, say? Or is this something that literally anyone can learn to do?
I think everybody genuinely has the ability. I think some people are more tuned in than others. I think as well what I've noticed over the years is sort of doing readings for people, depending on the early sort of years, what happened in your life kind of determines how available you are to open up and sort of receive energy from spirit. So people that have maybe been quite heavily conditioned in religion and everything else, I've noticed that they have struggled quite a bit to sort of intake energy, whereas people that maybe were a little bit wild, black sheep of the family, that have kind of just done their own thing, they tend to be more open to sort of spirit, I've noticed. So I think, the past heavily creates how you work now with spirit, but I think everyone has the ability. It's just sort of fine-tuning it all.
So, sort of, not necessarily a skeptical viewpoint because it is kind of definitely out there. But one of the theories, no, it's all good. It's all good. Are you an alien? No, I'm joking. There's a theory promoted by podcasts like the telepathy tapes. I don't know if you know.
Oh yeah.
That mediums aren't actually talking to the dead or spirits; they're unintentionally sort of mind reading the living. What do you make of the idea that potentially some people would view it more as a super telepath rather than a sort of bridge to the afterlife?
That's interesting. I mean, I don't think with the way that I work, I feel it is from spirit because I can have people sat in front of me and they can be arms crossed, so miserable and so closed. And I think if I was trying to read just through them, I wouldn't get fuck all, to be honest, because they're so, shields are up, walls are high. And I just think, the way how I kind of get the information from spirit, it almost feels a bit like sometimes thoughts are placed into me. How do I word it? So sometimes what sort of happens, like a bowl, it kind of feels like energetically like my sort of head opens up and stuff is literally put in.
Yeah.
So anyway I can describe it really. So yes, I have my guides and everything, but I'm not always seeing them. It comes in a number of ways. And I think that's the thing as well. We're all different frequencies, we're all different personalities, and that's what you get at the show. You get some that are complete believers, some that are complete skeptics, some that are somewhere in between, and everyone's on a different frequency, and you just work with what comes in, how it comes in. But I don't feel for me that I am getting it from the person.
Okay, it's interesting, yeah.
Because a lot of people are like, come on, show us what you got, sort of thing.
Well, I think on the telepathy tapes, it's more of a case that mediums, sort of like, in their opinion, weren't realising they were doing it. To them, it was like they were being given guidance from the spirit world, but they think sort of subconsciously they're doing it. But
I mean, maybe, I don't know. It's interesting.
It's pretty cool if so, just still sort of a really, fascinating thing. But yeah. So it's sort of, you can tell that it's being given and put in there rather than you're getting it directly from them.
And also, I get quite a lot of, I have had it before when I'm on stage where people have actually seen spirit around me. And there is on one of the shows I did back in the Ilminster Theatre, there's a photograph, I'll send it to you guys, there's a photograph of me with this lady's arm coming out the side of me, which people saw in the audience. So that to me is like, well, how is there the physical element?
Yeah.
If we've got that going on.
Yeah, definitely. Please send that to us.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we're going to get to the more skeptical stuff, if you don't mind. So, yeah, I mean, skeptics often point to cold reading as a way for what you're doing. Using vague cues and body language to fish for hits. And you did kind of cover this, I think,
Yeah.
quite early on in the chat, really. But so when you're in the zone, how do you personally distinguish between a genuine download into your bowl, if you like, in the head, and just, being an observant student of human nature?
Well, what you'll find when I'm doing my shows as well, often I don't actually look at people. So I'm sort of sometimes looking beyond the person that I'm talking to, and everything. I think, yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Because everyone's going to have their own belief system. But the way I look at it, can I really be asked to trick people? Have I really got time to piss around with that, and I get people will always have their beliefs. And I suppose really as a medium, all you can do is give what spirit want to give, what that person does with the information, that's their journey. So I never get too emotionally sort of attached to the message almost. It sounds really rude and sounds really ignorant, but in a way I kind of don't care if people believe me or don't, because for me I see sort of spirit as being like the employer, and as long as I've done what they've wanted, whatever else happens, that's the person's journey, and they may sort of decide to not believe any of it, and that's cool. It's up to them. But most of the time people come back and say, yes, that was really good, that made some sense, or whatever. And I suppose that kind of evidence speaks volumes for me, doesn't it, really? Because people won't keep coming back again and again. And I just feel like, there's nothing to gain from giving false hope. To me, that's really sort of quite psychopathic almost. It's quite detrimental to give somebody like belief in something if it isn't there. But yeah, there are unfortunately cold readers, but it's like with anything. It's like, builders as an example. There's great builders out there, but look how many cowboy builders there are.
It's interesting because I think you sort of hit the nail on the head there with the, sort of not caring whether they believe you or not to an extent, because I think to be good at what you do, which, evidently you are, you got to have that attitude in a way. If you get hung up on people believing you, that's when that temptation to start relying on cold readings or relying on making stuff up, I think, kicks in if you're worrying the whole time.
Yeah, I think you have to be, to my belief as a medium, to be a good medium, you have to be very secure in your own spirit before you can connect with other spirits, because essentially we're all spirit having a human experience, aren't we? But if you notice the ones that often are cold reading or exaggerating or whatever are actually not secure in themselves.
Yeah, I can believe that. I can absolutely believe that.
Yeah, and I think some of that goes back to my sort of past as well. So obviously as a kid, I was bullied quite a lot, obviously my sexuality and everything else, high voice at school, so that wasn't ideal, and all this stuff. And that whole sort of period of time, it forced me to have to connect with myself quickly, because it was like, Mitch, no one's going to save you. You've got to get on with this now. And I think because I had that into sort of adult life, I kind of don't give a shit if you like me or not, really. I like me, and I'm okay as me, and that's enough.
You sort of identify on your socials and everything as a male witch,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously a practitioner of Reiki as well. How do those sort of specific crafts and practices fit into the mediumship? Do you feel? Is it sort of like that sort of on the different sides of the energy coin? Is it something that you sort of do you ever use witchcraft in sort of in any form to assist you in your mediumship?
Yeah, I mean, I think they all kind of cross over, because really a reading is healing. It's just in a more vocal way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas, Reiki is more like the hands-on stuff. My witchcraft, I would say, is probably more private for me. I don't really open that up so much to the public. It's something I'm very secure with. I'm very much a eclectic witch, so I take pieces from many different sort of energies. Do quite a lot of tarot magic, actually. And for me, that works the best. I always think with witchcraft, it's what are we doing? What are we using it for? What are you wanting it for? So when clients ask me about the witchcraft stuff, I'm always a little bit skeptical of what do you actually want from this, because you get people often, can you make this person fall in love with me?
Yeah, can you make me a love spell?
No, that's not going to happen. For me, I feel very much like I don't use magic to sort of influence a person's free will, because that is, you can't do that, can you, really?
No.
So you never want to use your powers for evil.
No, it's almost like,
when do you learn to cast fireball?
Yeah, so magic, I suppose, is more of like, for me, magic is like just honouring the seasons, being aware of like the change of energy when the sun's out. It's more being with nature, I suppose. in a
That's
way,
it. It's
You know.
nature is that temple. That's the side of it I like. I mean, I'm not really a practitioner of anything, but I think a previous partner once said, he said, like I'm culturally Catholic but atheist, you're culturally pagan. I was like, yeah, I kind of like that.
Mm.
And I mean, my current partner, she's practicing. She's sort of more into the chaos and sort of manifestation part of it.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's really interesting to sort of be around, and I think that's in a way that helps. A lot of like witchcraft nowadays, sort of say nowadays, but it is neo-paganism in the sense that it is a revival. So I think the idea of taking bits from different parts of it, I think, is the best way to do it. Really.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And there's a lot of like, I call it TikTok magic.
Oh yeah, which is a TikTok.
Witch
Yeah.
talk, isn't it?
Witch talk,
Witch
yeah.
talk.
Do you remember when they cursed the moon?
No.
Yeah, that was a thing. A bunch of them cursed the moon, and another bunch of them saying, you can't do that. And I'm like, I don't think witches of TikTok are going to do too much damage. I wouldn't worry about it.
No.
What did they supposedly do to the moon?
I have no idea.
What did they have against the moon in the first place?
But I know the US government did investigate them briefly because they were apparently cursing Donald Trump, and they took it seriously enough
remember
to
that, yeah,
investigate
yeah.
them. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, we did it. We used to get as fascists in World War II, so, just saying.
Yeah, so Mitch, we don't just talk about spirits on the show. We're fascinated by the whole spectrum of the unexplained, right from aliens to time slips. So if you don't mind, we thought we'd ask you a few things
Of course.
in that realm.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the ghost versus aliens debate. So as a medium, you're tuned into spirit energy.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on like UAPs or aliens? Do you think there are biological visitors from another planet, or are they just another type of interdimensional spirit that people are misidentifying?
Well, that's a good way of putting it. Because I think they're definitely amongst us, 100%. What do I think they are? That's a really hard question to answer, actually. Because I kind of feel like there are different genres almost,
Yeah.
in a way. So I think that there probably are aliens that kind of come in from a separate kind of, timeline and everything else. But then I think there are others that are absolutely integrated within our own world already. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just feel like we can't be, when you think of all these different animals and things that are in the world and plants and all of it, we can't be the only ones, because there is so many multiple dimensions already that we're having. I mean, all of us are here today, but we're all actually having a different reality, even though we're all here today,
So my favourite one was the simple sort of, how do you know what I see as orange is the same sort of colour you see as orange and stuff like that. It's like those little brain breakers,
Yeah, and as a kid, I always used to think that. I'd be in a classroom thinking, is everyone seeing what I'm seeing? And obviously they weren't. But I always used to think that, like, are you seeing the teacher the same way that I'm seeing her, or whatever the thing was,
So, yeah, getting into it now, time slips. Wiltshire is one of those famously thin places. I mean, a lot of the southwest is really, but especially Wiltshire. Have you ever experienced a time slip yourself, or a feeling that you stepped out of 2026, I guess, and sort of into a different time entirely? Is it something that sort of medium's antenna, for lack of a better word, would pick up a bit more? Maybe like you're still in the same place, but you kind of feel like you've gone back as well. Has anything like that happened to you before?
But there's a few things there. So I just remember I was in the shower one day, like just showering away, and literally, I don't know if it was like, it wasn't a meditation, but it felt like I was being taken into a different space in my mind. And then I was this sort of female witch from a really like old time period. I hated men. I could really feel all the emotions. And basically I was being burnt at the stake for causing chaos to loads of guys. And everything else. And I could sort of smell stuff and everything else. And it was quite brief, probably about 5 minutes. And then I was back. So I don't know if that was a time slip or if it was a spiritual download or what it quite was. So I've had things like that happen before. I'm trying to think, there's another thing I've had. So I don't know if it's along the same lines, but so I've got like a little dog called Oscar, and he's a little Jack Russell. And when we first had him, he's a rescue dog, he was downstairs, we got him all chilled for the evening, me and my husband went to bed, and probably about half an hour later he was on the end of our bed. I was like, how the fuck's he on our bed? And I was like, okay. And both of us, my husband's a real skeptic, like one of the biggest skeptics in the room, even though I do the work I do.
Yeah.
And he's like, why is Oscar there? So we both saw him very clear, very physically. So I went to pick him up and then he'd gone. So I was like, okay, I'll go and check where he is. And he was sleeping in his cage. So I don't know if he was time tripping or doing something,
Oh,
or if it was more of an astral projection. I'm not sure. But it kind of comes, I suppose, under the same umbrella, isn't it, really?
yeah.
So it's like in two places at once.
Yeah, his spirit was with us,
Yeah.
but his physical body was downstairs. It was so weird. But because my husband saw it, I was like, proof. You cannot say it didn't
So how did
happen.
he explain it then?
He was like, I don't know what's fucking gone on. He's like, that's a head trip. He was quite sketched out by it.
Yeah.
He will accept stuff, but it takes a long time for him. He has to have like concrete evidence before he'll believe.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, first of all, got to ask was like, what was worse, the experience of being a witch that was being burnt at the stake, or was it comparable to being on stage as Cher in?
Oh, I don't know.
Worthing?
Worthing was quite feral.
Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Sort of, yeah. I think a lot of people, more than care to admit, have had experiences a bit similar to the one with the dog as well.
Yeah, it was just really, and also because it was so unexpected, we were just chilling. But I think that's the thing, when you are in that sort of state of like chilled consciousness, that's when things can come in a lot more because you're more open to receive,
So is there anything in the paranormal world that even you find hard to swallow? What's your limits?
Well, that's interesting.
I do believe in everything,
No, but I do feel like keep an open mind with stuff until it can be proved or disproved. So I don't believe in everything, but at the same time, I'm a little bit like, until it can be proved one way or another, it's open for a debate, isn't it, really?
It's a good way to be, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless you want to do your Tim Minchin quote.
If you open if you open your brain too much, if you open your mind too much, your brain will fall out. It's
we don't want that to happen.
I don't know if we got this one as a question or not.
The next one's the Florida man.
Oh yeah. Have you, before we do that, I was just wondering, have you ever come across something in your time doing what you do, or even before then, that's actually scared you? That's actually really unsettled you?
Yeah, there have been a few things. Not very often. There's been one or two things that were a bit creepy. So I always remember I did a reading for a guy and he had severe mental health and he actually was schizophrenic. So I did his reading and everything. And then as he was... Now, I don't know if this was actually part of him or if it was a separate entity, but... Basically, there was this, I was halfway through the reading, he talked about he'd done a Ouija board and all this, hadn't shut it down. I was like, oh, here we go. And he was going along the lines of he felt he had an attachment. And then I saw out of the side of him sort of like a reptilian type creature, but almost with like maleficent horns.
Oh, wow.
And that scared me because I wasn't expecting it. And I was like, oh, okay. So that's when I brought in, when you said earlier about do you use Reiki with your mediumship, I brought the Reiki in to sort of do some cord cutting and everything else and just ask it to be separated. But I don't know if it was actually an embodiment of his schizophrenia that was being shown to me in that way, or if it was actually like a separate entity. But either way, it did make me jump because I wasn't expecting it. Another time, I haven't been scared, but it unnerved me. We actually did a seance in this room before. And we had down the end there all the cat balls going off. They were all lighting up. And then there's a big door over there at the back, which takes you into the tattoo studio. And we're all in here chilling away, just doing the thing. And then the door slammed really loud and it properly closed. And when you go out and have a look at it, it's a heavy door. And so that made me jump because I wasn't expecting it. It's more jumpy things, but there's nothing that's really... I can honestly say there's nothing that's really scared me. I do believe that there is a lot of dark stuff, but I think if you set your protection up, I think you've got to be careful what you go prodding, but I think if you set that intention in the first place that you want to connect with higher energy, you're going to gain higher energy. I think if you go prodding for the Jack the Ripper, you may find him,
So there's one last thing we normally do with guests, which is the Florida Man segment.
Oh, okay.
And this is normally Andy's bit, so I'll let you take the reins.
So, have you heard of the Florida Man phenomenon?
No.
So basically, you can Google, man or woman, you can Google, or in between,
Well, the original idea of Florida Man is that there's a lot of news headlines that start, a Florida man, X, Y, Z.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you can Google your birth date, so just the day and the month, and type Florida man, and you will get a wacky wild story. What's your birth date?
You know already. It's
I
in
do
the
know. I
script.
just wanted to make sure. I wanted to make sure because otherwise I'm
Let's
not
see if I
an
got it
idiot.
right.
Is it?
Did you tell me?
Is it the 19th of
Yeah.
January?
It is.
It's the day after mine.
Oh.
But
Do you need the year?
nope.
No? Okay.
So your Florida man story is Florida man arrested after trying to cross the Atlantic in a hamster wheel vessel.
Oh, God. Typical.
Just a very quick summary. While most people take a Boeing 747 to get to the UK, Raza decided he was going to run from Florida to London across the Atlantic Ocean in a homemade vessel that looked exactly like a giant hamster wheel. He called it the Bubble, and the US Coast Guard found him 70 miles offshore in his contraption, which was basically held together by wiring in buoys just as a major hurricane was rolling in. Maybe it'd have helped him along, I don't know. Sort of whizzed up in the air, sort of.
This is like Wizard of Oz shit.
Right, exactly. So when they tried to rescue him, he refused to leave for 3 days, claimed he had a bomb on board, and told the officers he was doing the whole thing to raise money for the Coast Guard. The bomb was fake, but the commitment was real. He actually tried this 4 times. He once tried to run to New York and ended up drifting 30 miles in the opposite direction.
That's a bit
So there you
crazy.
go. That's your Florida man story.
It all happens over there, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Really weird.
That's a fun one.
Talking about all it happens, when you said it all happened in a bed shop, I think that should be the title of your autobiography. If you
Oh, do you reckon? Yeah. I have written a few books, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, they actually are on selling here somewhere. But I'm in the middle of writing a new book because the first one I did was basically all like the introduction to getting into mediumship. It talks all about my Cher thing and everything else and discovering myself. But yeah, I think I've kind of had enough time pass now to write a second one with my adventures on stage and everything else. So maybe beyond the bed shop.
I like that. That's great. That's great.
Beyond the bed
Yeah.
shop. I'm going to have to remember that.
I could be wrong and we can cut this if you don't want to talk about it, but am I right in thinking that you're dyslexic?
I am, yeah.
And so you always struggled with that kind of thing, but Spirit guided you to write the books, is that right?
Yeah, they really wanted me to write these bloody books, and it's like, and quite a few people have said, why didn't you sort of like record it and just get AI or whatever to sort of like cross it over? And but for me, if I'm going to do it, I've got to physically type it.
Yeah, you want it to be that coming out of you rather than through the lens of AI.
Yeah, definitely. I feel it's got to be kind of ethical, otherwise there's no point doing it, is there?
And that's interesting though. So with the dyslexia, not necessarily did it go away, but did the Spirit help you overcome that for the writing, or was it still there?
I don't know, because I think my editor probably has her own version about it. I gave her the book and she's like, fucking hell, I've never seen so many mistakes. But she was able to sort of untangle it,
Okay.
But yeah, I do think it was channeled through Spirit. I think if anyone said to me, write a book about something else, I would not have a clue.
Yeah.
I think it was because it was partly channeled via Spirit, really.
Just thought it would have been interesting if somehow you'd overcome dyslexia via Spirit.
Not quite as
Through an editor.
Through an editor, yeah.
Same thing.
Sort of talking about your book and everything, that kind of leads us into the wrap up, really. So yeah, thank you very much for reaching out to us and sort of joining us on Wyrd Wessex.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, kind of really sad I can't make your show, but I'm glad you're getting to go.
Yes, I'm going to go to Mitch's show tomorrow.
Oh, exciting.
It's been
and see what happens, and hopefully record some of it as well, so I get to see some of it.
It'll be interesting to get your thoughts on it. Good or bad, light or dark, it's all cool. It's all an experience.
That's what I like. You said to us originally when you reached out, and I said, we're quite sceptical. You're like, I'm not here to convert you. Like, come along.
You might kind of like come and enjoy it and still think, I went in a skeptic, I'm going a skeptic. But it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So, yeah, basically we like to end in saying, is there anything you'd like to plug? Sort of tell us about yourself, where people can find out more about you, where to get tickets to your shows, etc.
Mainly the website. So obviously Mitch Garlington or Mitch/Garlington.co.uk. The full tour is up there for this year. Very exciting. So as well as Seen, I'm doing Walkie Hole Theatre, which is very haunted.
Nice.
So that's going to be pretty cool. Where else am I going to? Can't remember now. Isle of Wight at the Trinity Theatre. There's loads of them on there. So best to go on the website, check it all out. It's all on there. Or you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook. Happy days.
Books are for sale here. Can people get them online?
Yeah, they can come here as well. It's online as well. Or you can come into the shop if you're around Frome or want to kind of come down. Actually, really interestingly, I had a lady come down from Hampton Hill in London. to come and have a reading in here, and she saw me 2 years ago when I did Hampton Hill Theatre. So I thought that was quite cool to come all that way from London. That's quite far, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So when you're saying, "Oh, there's nothing in it," they wouldn't travel that far, surely. That's quite a commitment, I thought. I was quite shocked when she told me.
Yeah, and thanks to the guys at the shop for hosting us as well. It's a really cool space.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we've never been here before. First time visiting. I've never been to Frome, to be honest.
Have you not?
No, first time.
It's steeped in kind of witchy history, and also as well as this place, there is another, the Haunts Gauntlet behind, which is another little witchy shop. So yeah, there's a few little pockets of stuff to check out while you're here.
Yeah, we'll
it's all there in the dark corners.
Definitely. Oh, perfect.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Mitch, for your time.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, and well, I'll see you tomorrow.
You will see me tomorrow. I'll be in a bit more of a sparkly blazer, so I kind of, my nights are sort of camp sparkly with that kind of Lily Savage, Joan Rivers vibe, you know.
Brilliant. And we are back in the studios.
I thought you were going to do like a 3, 2, 1. You're back in the room.
Not a hypnotherapist.
Close.
So yes, we are back from our meeting with Mitch, and I wanted to talk about the show because I didn't actually go, and Craig did. But
yes, I did.
I want to mention before that there was one other question. And unfortunately, due to technical issues our end, it wasn't on our list when we met him, but he was very kind and sent us a response to it that we will be playing at the end. But before we show you that last bit from Mitch, I want to talk about the live show because, unfortunately, I couldn't make it work, but Craig went. How was it?
It's good. I got applauded by the audience, actually, which was quite nice.
Really?
Clearly never heard of the show.
What brought it about? So I understand you filmed some of it.
Yeah, so I filmed the whole thing. So what we're going to do, as we discuss it, I'm going to chuck a few clips in of Mitch doing his thing. If anyone's interested in watching the whole thing, what we'll do is we'll put it up on our Discord. So if you're not a member of Discord, you're going to have to sign up if you want to watch the whole of Mitch's show. But it will be up on the Discord if you want to watch and get your own opinions on and kind of, what you make of it. But no, the reason I got a cheer was just because he kind of pointed out that I was sat in the corner recording the show for the podcast.
Fantastic.
So, hello, if you've just tuned in for the first time because you're at Mitch's show.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
One lady did tell me a very interesting story, and it would be interesting if you are listening, send us an email with that one, because either you can come on and tell us yourself or we can read it out because it's quite an interesting one. So the show itself, it was interesting. It was 2 hours. It was like an hour with a half-hour break and then another hour. So 2 full hours, which is quite a lot. It was interesting because I don't know if I ever said on the show, but years ago in my early 20s, I used to go to a spiritualist church.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you have.
So I have a history of this kind of thing. And then I went down the kind of Richard Dawkins.
We all have that angry atheist kind of, it's all trickery phase.
Yeah. And I've softened, especially I think, as we've said before, since doing this show. And I'm a lot more open to, people's beliefs and being a bit more respectful of it than the hard atheist kind of, you're wrong approach, Mitch did ask me at the end kind of whether my opinions had shifted at all, and I did have to say I'm sorry, but I'm still exactly where I was when I entered the room. Which I think was disappointment for Mitch. Sorry, Mitch, if you're listening, but I've got to be honest. I can play you a couple of clips if you like, and you can kind of gauge your own opinion. I know you've spoke about cold reading on the show before. We obviously asked Mitch about cold reading.
Absolutely.
So that's probably the best thing is I've picked out a couple of clips. So, in regard to Mitch in general, very funny guy, great stage presence. And I will say a lot of his stuff is not, a lot of mediums are very vague, aren't they? It's like, is there anyone in the room that can take her and then a name, or I'm getting her and then a letter?
Yeah, that's it.
Mitch will go, that guy at the back of the room over there, yeah, I'm getting something for you. And then he's off. And
Okay.
I would say there were misses. There were definitely misses. There were hits. You know, I don't know what the kind of percentage would be of that and what is deemed as good.
Let me put it out there. I'm by no means calling Mitch fake whatsoever. This isn't targeted at Mitch, but I was just saying, if we're working on the theory that none of it's real and everyone's making it up, which I'm not saying, but if that is the case, I've got to admire the stones of someone that will go away from the vagaries and go, you there, and just take a punt on it, you know? But as I said, it's, you know, sort of real or not, that impresses me a lot more than cold reading. I mean, cold reading is certainly a skill, but, you know, and I'm
I think as well, like,
by it, but
regardless of all that as well, Mitch is genuine.
Yes,
whether
absolutely.
we think the skill is genuine or not, Mitch is genuine. Mitch believes what he's doing is genuine, and something's obviously working to at least some extent.
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
a couple of. If I want to put my really like proper skeptic hat on, then there's a little bit of me that says this was the 4th time he's done the show in the same village. So I don't know how many of the people he was reading to he had done messages for before, and that he was consciously or not picking up on those things, maybe.
I kind of like the idea there's like 2 or 3 people that you go back to every time, and it's like Lorraine, no. Fred, no. Bob, no. Like
every
Sam,
year he gets
Sam. That's it. Just go through the names until you get a hit. But but no, you're right. He does genuinely seem like, you know, sort of authentic, lovely guy, and yeah, really interesting to talk to. Like, you know, we get, I mean, we've been really lucky with our guests. Like, pretty much all of them I've found very easy to talk to. But sometimes you get ones that are really, you know, you could just stay there chatting to for hours. And I definitely felt like Mitch was one of them.
Yeah. I was probably going to mention at the end, but I guess we also say is we have also been invited to do a seance in the shop at some point. So we're gonna sort that out. So we will be having Mitch back on the show to do a kind of, I guess, a different side of what he does, because it's not readings, it's a seance. And
Seance,
I did say to
Halloween, you say Houdini, you say.
That's not a bad shout, but they did say that the shop was full of ghosts, so we might pick up on something else. And I did tell Mitch after the show the other day that, as skeptical as I am, I'm more nervous of that than I was of coming to watch him do mediumship. As a skeptic, I'm still a little bit like, yeah, but ghosts, mate, ghosts, you know.
Yeah, there's sort of a bit of a barrier when you go and see a medium, whereas seance, you're kind of like inviting them in, aren't you?
Yeah. So, I guess I've picked a few clips out that I think are interesting, particularly on what I think. As I say, I'm not an expert in cold reading like you are, Andy, but I think it'd be interesting to see how it comes across to you. But unless these people were at the show before and he already has some knowledge there, if he is genuinely picking this stuff up, then I think some of these things are pretty spot on. As I say, he's not talking in vagaries or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's funny how much more skeptical we sound now that he's not in the room. Sorry, Mitch.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but then we always said that was going to be the case in some ways, didn't we? We are sort of, we do err on the skeptic side on a lot of these things. And, you know, I feel like the skeptic's argument has to be made, you know, sort of that is the burden of proof, isn't it? But at the same time, you know, I said it to Mitch, I've said it a few times, I do personally feel a lot more open to these sort of things than I was a few years ago when we started the podcast.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and at the beginning of the show, Mitch did sort of say, what's the balance in the room? Like, are there any skeptics? And I think 2 people put their hand up. So not including me.
Team believer, team skeptic. Team, I don't know.
Mostly a room full of believers. And partly this is what I found interesting as well, is just watching the audience and like why they're there and what they're getting out of it. As I said, Mitch, very funny. This first section, I believe, is a bit of what became a running joke on the evening about a turtle, that he kept getting this turtle come through. And it's quite funny.
Animals come through quite a lot, but Did one of you have a turtle? Because I've got like this turtle just looking at me. Does that make sense to either of you? No, okay, I might have moved on with that then. Because like, yeah, normally it's dogs and cats, but there's a fucking turtle just in the corner looking at me, and I'm like, oh, you're a fool, mate, but well, I'm going to try and find you, your owner. Okay. So I'll work with you. We'll come back to you a bit later. Okay. Yeah, because, you know, the soul of an animal does live on just as a human, you know. But he's kind of creeping me out, so I want to kind of get him moved on quick. Okay. I feel like I may know where the turtle is.
Oh, so just very, very quickly. So this now has jumped to the second half of the show. So he's only just come back on stage. So as I say, it's a bit of a running thing about the turtle throughout the night. But this is where he pinpoints where it's from.
Okay. Because as I kind of came off stage, there was this lovely gentleman that sort of followed me into the back room. Not Craig, it was another gentleman. And I feel like what happened was this beautiful guy came forward and really wanted to let me know he wants to link with somebody that's a friend of his. Now, I'm just trying to see where we are in the room, because I can't quite see where my sat-nav is taking me at the moment. He definitely comes in under the name of Stuart, and as I sort of feel like I'm seeing him, oh, I'm over here, am I? Okay, I don't think he's really ever come through before. He's making me feel like he's been gone quite a long time, and he's hollering at me, Sharon, Sharon, I want to talk to Sharon. Does this make sense to you? Okay, are you Sharon?
Yeah.
Perfect, okay. But also, who's Bobby?
My granddad.
Your granddad. Okay, perfect. Because I keep hearing Bobby, Bobby, Bobby is there as well. Okay, with Stuart, as he steps in around you, I do feel like he's been gone a number of years. I think we're looking at maybe like 12 to 15 years. It's quite a long time, okay? And I was deciding when I was at the back, do I wear the sparkly blazer? Do I wear my red blazer? I had a choice. And he's like, go for the sparkle. So was he a little bit theatrical?
Yeah.
Because I feel like he's making me feel jazz handy a little bit. Do you know what I mean? He feels like he follows me down the yellow brick road. I'm getting that kind of vibe. Oh, okay. Sometimes I get some really weird messages.
Oh, okay. So, all right. That's the end of the turtle section.
Yeah.
If you want to comment, you can, or I can continue.
That's interesting. So, who was Stuart then?
I
In
can't
relation
remember off the
to-
top of my head now. Was it her?
Sharon, whoever it was, obviously knew it.
Yeah. I can't remember off the top of my head what the relation was. But I mean, that's again very specific stuff, right? He was there,
Yeah, like
saying,
Bobby.
yeah, and I'm over here, Bobby. Sharon. He was very
And again,
specific.
You don't know whether he knows Sharon from a previous show or not, but either way, pretty impressive.
Benefit of the doubt, he didn't know who they were.
I don't know if it's a tortoise that you have in spirit or if this is on the earth, but you definitely have a tortoise.
I have a tortoise.
Okay, because the one over there is just walking towards you. So I'm wondering if he's astral projecting to come to my show this evening a little bit. But you can understand that. And I actually don't think the tortoise necessarily was about anything other than Stuart trying to link in. I think that's coming in together. Oh, I can't be so careful with this next one. So like me and my husband, we've got like a little kind of like fun, jokey little phrase that we used to say years ago. We don't do it so much now. We can tolerate each other now. But like, so we used to say like Bubsy and Bubbler. And I keep hearing Bubsy and Bubbler in my head over and over again. And as I'm sort of looking like in the room, I'm feeling very drawn to the guy in the cap at the moment. Can I work with you?
Yes.
If I said bubble to you, could you understand that?
I can.
If I said Bubsy, can you understand that?
Less so, but bubbles.
Bubbles, yeah? Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page. If I said Stanley, can you take that name?
I can definitely say that name, yes.
Perfect, because I feel I've got this really playful gentleman coming in around me. He's talking about Stanley. I think that's his dad wanting to make a connection, but he keeps saying Bubbler and Bubsy, and I'm like, what is that about?
That was his nickname.
Oh, that's his nickname. Okay, I thought it was a bit kinky. That's fine. Okay, that's cool.
So yeah, that's the end of that one. Which again, Stanley, which I think turned out to be his father, because they start to talk about him being quite a portly fellow and stuff.
Yeah. It was the nicknames though. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, Bubbles, Bubsy and Bubbler, and then he kind of went actually Bubbles. And also, this guy was sat right at the back of the room, so again, he can only kind of see him in the distance, really, while he's doing that. But yeah, it seemed very specific on the names again. Like I say, it's not this old thing about being like, I'm getting an S. You know, he's just like, it's a Stanley, and yeah.
He's talking about secretly smoking and he's stumping it out. Is that something you've been doing? No secrets with the spirit world. Sorry. Okay. Your partner doesn't know. Oh, dear. Okay. Because I really... Oh, this is weird. If don't let your husband watch podcast, it's all I'm going to say. Also,
Yeah, so that was a lady that got caught out secretly smoking by the spirit.
Wow.
That's
a fairly specific thing again. I mean...
Yeah.
With clients, she's just said you can upgrade your scissors. Have you got are you using like a really, not rusty, but quite an old pair of scissors that are quite blunt? She's saying, come on, girl, get some decent kit. She's probably throwing you under the bus, wouldn't she? Does that make sense though? Like she's saying it in a jokey way though. She's being jokey. I'll stress that. But she's talking about these scissors that kind of like you've used. I think you may have trained with these scissors, and you just tried them all the way through. And then your trusty pair, but they don't feel like they cut properly. Nobody's used this lady. She's got enough clients until she's upgraded her scissors via your auntie's command, because you've been looking at this really cool rainbow set, haven't you? Yeah, because that's what I'm seeing. There's this rainbow set of, or iridescent, we'll say. She wants you to treat yourself. They are quite expensive. Put that through the books. And really feel like she's saying you're allowed to have these better quality scissors. Your clients will feel the benefit.
Right. Yeah, that was the last clip, I think. Yeah, so that was the auntie telling us to upgrade her scissors. There was a previous gag I didn't realise was in there when he said about putting it through the books, is because she told him before that when clients pay her cash, the auntie said, don't put it through the books. And then when the scissors came up, she said, put that one through the books, But I thought, again, very specific. You've been looking at rainbow or iridescent scissors lately, and it was true.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be skeptical without saying you knew that person or you've somehow researched it, which I don't want to do because Mitch genuinely does not seem that type of guy. But no, that is pretty, it's pretty good.
That's it. I mean, the only way I can debunk it is, again, by saying maybe these people have been at a show before. But other than that...
How would he know about the iridescent scissors unless he literally chatted to her about it,
And he actually, so that's a couple of things between shows, actually. So on Messenger, we were talking, and I was trying to work out what my setup would be, whether I could mic him up and stuff. And he mentioned that he's got a mic, but no earpiece. Of course, I never really considered that, but he's like, that's how John Edwards got caught out. He had an earpiece, right? And he was being fed information. To have an earpiece, people are saying I'm faking it. So he doesn't have an earpiece. And the other thing is, he told me to get there early because at the beginning of the show, he doesn't come out because he doesn't mingle with the audience until after the event.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, so I caught him right at the beginning when I got there, and then he went backstage, and then he didn't come out again until he came on stage. Yeah, I mean, he wasn't as well. Like, I get the feeling if people had been there before, they'd have hung around at the end and, oh, hi, Mitch, how you doing? I haven't seen you for a while.
Exactly.
There weren't many people doing that, so yeah. It's hard to debunk, I think.
Not medium. He's just psychic. No, in all honesty, though, it's that's it. Just everyday, average, run-of-the-mill psychic powers.
Sorry, Mitch, you're just a run-of-the-mill psychic.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've never been to a medium show. You know, I've watched them online and a lot, you know, sort of watched them, on TV, and a lot of those things are kind of, you know, the big ones on TV, a lot of them have been debunked, but they are the guys with the earpieces and the people mingling out in the crowd for them and stuff. And, you know, sort of Mitch was saying, and I'm really glad he's gotten bigger, you know, he's doing bigger venues. But I don't think he's on the level where he can employ a team of people to research and another team of people to go and mingle in the crowd and pick up information, you know.
Honestly,
another team of people to be in the crowd as plants, you know.
You had 2 members of staff that were running the bar for the social club. His mum had her own little stall there. She was selling these bits of jewellery and like glass ornamental.
Oh, nice.
So she was off in the corner doing her thing, and then, as I say, you had his husband who was on the door as well, and he was pretty much taking tickets, saying hello to people, and they'd move on. They weren't like lingering to get information, if you know what I mean. And then I'll be honest, they never, as I say, Mitch was backstage, so they weren't even like communicating. It's not like Paul was feeding him information, you know. So
I'm not saying it can't be a thing. You know, I don't know whether it is a psychic thing or an actual talking to the dead thing or something else entirely. I have no idea. But, you know, it's sometimes you do see these things. You're like, how the fuck did you know that?
Let's get to this other question. So I've only got the audio for this, I'm afraid. So first off, I'll read the question. So I wrote the question for me to ask specifically. Something Andy and I have been talking about recently is how our relationship with death has changed. Centuries ago, people lived with it. It was right in the middle of the community, in the home, completely unsanitized. But these days, we've pushed it behind closed doors. I have a theory that this is exactly why people go looking for phone calls from the dead, or they get so obsessed with experiencing the other, because we're starving for that connection we used to have. So as a medium, do you think you're effectively a bridge for that missing grief? Are you giving people back the closeness to death that modern society has taken away? Yeah, so this was... I messaged Mitch when I got home on Saturday after the interview and said, really gutted, I've just realised this question was missing. You don't have to answer it, but I thought it was interesting. And he was like, I need to send you a voicemail and give you an answer because actually that's really interesting. So this is
that
what
is such
said.
a super cool question and kind of one we definitely should have done. So yeah, for me, like obviously in times of old, like you say, death was celebrated in many other countries. Death is really celebrated. If you think of like some of the tribal countries, they dig their ancestors up every year, you know, sort of the Day of the Dead, and they redress them. And they have meals with their dead and everything else, you know, and it isn't seen as scary or problematic or uncomfortable. They really honour the continuation of sort of decomposition in a sense. And I think in today's world, you know, particularly I talk about this a lot, like with people in school, you know, if you think of like schooling, we learn a lot of subjects that, you know, some of us use, a lot of us don't, and different things. And we're never really taught about death at any point, not really, you know. So unless you're unfortunate enough to lose somebody at a young age, you have no experience of death, really. And what I find as a medium, particularly when I do private readings or at the shows as well, is a lot of people don't actually know how to let go. A lot of people don't know how to grieve. And the thing with mediumship, we don't actually have to let go of our loved ones because they live within our hearts. You know, they are essentially a piece of us, you know. And so mediumship absolutely can be a bridge for great healing and to just give people closure. You know, I've had a lot of people come to me on private sessions that have done conventional grief counselling and it hasn't helped, it hasn't worked. In some cases, it's actually brought up trauma and made it worse for people. And, you know, in some cases, they've said by having 1 or 2 sessions with myself as a medium, that's given them so much more closure than they ever got from the professionals in the grief counselling. And I think grief counselling is really important. So I would never say don't not use it, because I absolutely think that is something that is crucial for anyone that's grieving. But I think also mediumship can absolutely be a bridge and can be sort of a healing session of its own, particularly when you get situations. I've had it quite a lot. So because I've experienced a lot of suicide in my life personally, you tend to find mediums will get a lot of connections that you've actually gone through. So say if somebody has had many miscarriages, they may, as a medium,
get a lot of messages of children that have passed over. As an example, for me, it's like suicide. I've had so many people pass through suicide, direct family members and friends. And a lot of the time, those types of messages particularly can bring people so much comfort when you've got absolute proof 100% that it's your loved one talking to you. And, they're saying it was nothing about you. It was just something in their head where they couldn't keep going, or whatever was going on or happening. I've also had more conventional passings where people weren't able to be there at the end, or they were trying to get to the hospital and then their loved one passed over. And Spirit has known of this and says it's okay. It is absolutely okay. So I think for me, the work that I do, whether it's on stage or private one-to-one, is always being able to sort of heal. And, my kind of slogan really is I always want to be able to leave people feeling a little bit better than when I first found them. And if I can do that, I kind of feel my job is done, really. So, but that's a super cool question. Amazing.
It's a good answer. It's a really good answer.
Yeah. That was off the cuff, as I say. He literally said, let me send you a voicemail just after I sent it. So he didn't have like hours to think about it. That was just his off the cuff response.
Well, I mean, that's what we want, really, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't want anyone to think like he had hours before he got back to me, though. It was literally like minutes, probably as long as it took to record that, basically. And then I got it. So, and I think he made a very interesting point at the beginning there, though, as well, is that we don't teach kids.
No, it's such a taboo thing here, isn't it? Like, I'm trying to, and I think I mentioned it before, I'm trying to sort of write a bit of an educational tabletop game for sort of youngsters. And I've been like racking my brains trying to like sort out how to avoid death in it, and it's like, on one hand, I don't want to glorify it, but at the same time, like, it got me thinking, like, we really don't do death well here. I mean, less so than we used to. When we were growing up, like, cartoons had death in it. They don't now, not really. I mean, shit me, animals are farthing wood. How would that traumatize people nowadays?
Oh, yeah.
Watership down. Whew.
There is a Bluey episode that deals with death actually quite well. So some shows do still do it.
That's good to know. Did you blub?
I blub every episode of Bluey.
Excellent.
Of course.
Yeah, so let us know what you think, everyone. Especially if you if you go onto Discord and watch the whole thing. But thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you again to Mitch for being so accommodating. And yeah, look forward to meeting up with him again for a seance.
Yeah, and thanks to the shop Carpe Noctem in Frome as well for letting us record.
It's a really cool shop. Got Mitch's little underground lair there. Got a tattoo studio. Loads of cool stuff. I kind of wish I could have spent more time and bought some stuff in there as I was hoping to. But shout outs.
Yes. So, big thanks to our current paying subscribers over on Buy Me a Coffee. We have Terry, we have Simon, we have Nick, we have Rosie, we have John, and a new sign up just last week, Andrew Chorley, who is not only a friend of the podcast, but a friend of ours. So that was very nice of him to join.
Thank you very much. He's often sends messages over which ones he's enjoyed particularly. So, glad to have you aboard. Thanks for your support. And thank all of you.
I was just going to say, very quick shout as well, that it's probably about a week after this goes out, I think, depending on the schedule. But 11th of April, we're recording an episode with returning guest Eileen Budd, the storyteller. Got the date right, didn't I, Andy? Is that right?
Yes,
11th?
yes.
Yes, 11th at 6 p.m. Now, we are going to put a link to the recording on the Discord channel. So if you sign up, you can actually watch along live. And Eileen has said at the end of the recording, she will do a little Q&A and we can just kind of answer any questions that anybody's got, really.
It'd be great to have you there.
The focus of that episode, in case you kind of want to pre-plan some questions or anything, is Scottish folklore, and we're going to be presenting kind of our English counters to the Scottish and kind of doing a little compare and contrast between these different myths and legends and folklore.
Yeah.
She has a long list, so I suspect after this episode we've already discussed booking her on again, because we won't get through what we need to. But we're going to make sure there's time for a Q&A at the end. So yeah, if you want to do that, sign up to our Buy Me a Coffee and keep an eye on the Discord.
So yeah, that about wraps it up, I think. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time.
I nearly said don't blame the owls. Don't do that, but also stay weird.